Way to be thorough. Looks like the area's clean. Way to be thorough. Looks like the area's clean. Way to be thorough. Looks like the area's clean.
Hell, this is a place of business, and you're gonna cost me money. What the hell kind of grounds do you have anyway to come intruding like this?
Read the warrants and see. You may want to skim down to where it says lethal substance. Sodium monofluoroacetate, also known as compound 1080. Wouldn't want to pop my popcorn in here. You'll want a different tool for that. You'll want a different tool for that. Here today. Derek's hair on the broken rake handle. I don't think it got there while Derek was raking leaves. Not in Vegas, anyway. Odorless, tasteless, poisonous. Lethal dose is only 1/100th of an ounce. Possible murder weapon, but let's not get cocky till Doc Robbins has his say. Well, it's just an ordinary, everyday scorecard. It's illegal gambling, high-stakes poker, the kind of pot that makes a CSI's yearly salary look like nickel-dime.
This just came in. We found the car in Utah. The woman driving it gave us her testimony. Bottom line, she hung out with him 3 days ago, then split home. Says it was her camera that took the photo you found. For your info, her car has a GPS and a mobile phone. She wears size 5 boots that match our print. She smokes, and her lipstick is of the reddish variety that matches our sample. And her voice matches the 911 tape. Since she didn't have any poison on her, I think we can cross her and her evidence off our list. It's the Vicks. Service provider was very helpful. 3 stored messages on the voicemail. Got them all on tape.
Carla's tone is a tad different than the sweet, patient wife she's been laying on us.
Well, Derek, I certainly raised a class act for a son. Hanging up on his own mother. Lovely. You know what the problem is? I spoiled you when tough love was called for. And if you don't honor your financial commitment to my campaign, my darling boy, I will show you just how tough a mother's love can be. Do I make myself clear?
And here I was wondering why Emily didn't make Mother of the Year.
Hey, handsome. Thanks for the nice long talk last night. Anytime you're in the mood for a stimulating conversation, I guess you know the number. And if a private show is on your mind, you know where to find your shining star.
Doesn't quite sound like the little woman, huh? Bone sex, lap dances. Derek was not as domesticated as his wife thought. You got stood up when company came, and thought your husband might have been out gambling. Thought you and Derek had worked all that out.
Listen, Derek was human. He fell off his various wagons from time to time, and I had to be the bad guy sometimes. If that's suspicious, go out and arrest every couple that argues, why don't you? Anyway, I'd cooked a gourmet dinner for his friends, and he stood us all up.
Shape of the wound, nature of the blunt instrument, Vic's hair. This rake handle is consistent with a head wound. Now I know what we're dealing with. I can safely say cause of death is poisoning by sodium monofluoroacetate, compound 1080, a rare and interesting poison. The toxic effects of SFMA usually happen within minutes of ingestion and result from a conversion of non-toxic fluoroacetate ions to toxic fluorocitric acid, which then blocks the Krebs cycle, affecting the central nervous system and heart. Typically, death results from ventricular tachycardia or heart fibrillation. Layman's terms, ventricles of the heart start beating so rapidly as to prevent the pumping of blood. In some cases, death could be from respiratory failure caused by pulmonary edema. This essentially fills the lungs with water. Grissom wants you in the lab now that COD's been determined.
So, cause of death was determined to be pesticide. The Vic smoked it on his walkabout and dropped dead. But it's playing havoc with our Trinity. We don't have anyone to physically match to the crime scene.
You said it yourself. He died in the desert, potentially alone. But he was killed by poison. So what should you be looking for now?
A second crime scene, where the poison was originally mixed into the tobacco. And that's where we will find evidence linking the suspect to that crime scene.
Nicely reasoned, Greg. Now follow through.
Is Lou Astor a contractor or an exterminator? Guy's got enough pesticide to wipe out a city block. And his tools have traces of our Vic on them. Let's bring Mr. Astor in and see what he can build for us this time.
of people owe me money. It's the nature of the construction business. Yeah, so what? I run a friendly game between friends, you know?
Right, friendly.
Yeah, and Hardy owed me money from a recent game. Chump change for him, but he was stiffing me, and I was feeling like the chump. Guy just would not pay up. Acted like I was the lowly grunt who works with his hands, and he's some special rich kid.
So you write him a friendly note, you tell him to pay up or else, then you wait for him to come around the shop and crack him over the head with a rake.
That wasn't the way it was. He freaks out about my note, and he comes over here and goes off on me. So sure, I defended myself. I mean, the bastard said he was going to kill me. Would you just stand there and let him rough you up? I don't think so.
Interesting take. Here's another. Derek was in the red with you in a big way, you and your poker friends. So you whack him a good one, sending him to his knees, breaking that rake in half. And while Derek's having a little nap on the floor, you take the opportunity to lift his tobacco from his pocket and sprinkle pesticide in his cigarettes.
Poison him? What are you, high? Listen, that ain't my style. If I got a problem with somebody, I'm not gonna... Geez, are you kidding? I mean, is that how he died?
Oh dear. Well, that's good, isn't it? I mean, it's progress at least. Please tell me he didn't suffer.
He did suffer, but it wasn't prolonged. There was a highly toxic pesticide in his tobacco. He smoked it and died of the poison.
Poison? My God, that's terrible. My baby, my poor, poor baby. Derek had his faults. God knows. I know, but how did this happen? Derek? Suicide? No, never a word. Frankly, he was too selfish for that. Was that terrible for me to say, to admit? But he was self-centered, like all substance abusers and sick gamblers. And he was struggling with kicking his various habits, but still, I wouldn't call him depressed or anything. Oh my, do I have to? Really, this is personal, and it's all I have left of him. Those last memories. Well, we woke up and made love, and just rolled over into each other's arms, and... Anyway, then he got up and made breakfast. While we ate breakfast, he sprung it on me. He was taking one of his trips out into the desert. He didn't think I'd mind, since I was going to be working all week on my upcoming trial. Around then, Lou Astor, that jerk contractor, dropped by to pick up his materials, and Derek got into it with him. He was still in the kitchen, cleaning up after breakfast, when I left for work, and that was the last time I saw him. An image I'll treasure, because for all his faults and selfishness, there was that thoughtful side.
Hey there, want a hint?
Here at the house all day. Mr. Astor, my contractor, stopped by briefly, then left. I saw my son that afternoon. We spoke briefly in the garage as he was picking up his camping gear, which had been in storage there for months. I never touched any of it, by the way. Then he was on his way. Really quite unremarkable, except for the fact that I would never see him alive again.
He's on his way to interrogation now.
And we found it in Derek's tobacco, too.
Hey, in my business, pesticide is part of the program. Now, let me tell you, I am beyond careful with that stuff. It's as deadly as a heart attack, and I keep it under lock and key in the office. I even wear gloves when I handle it.
Careful precautions, like leaving an open jar in your shop.
Please. I must have misplaced the lid when I used it up. Frickin' jar was empty anyway. No harm done. Listen, I didn't care much for the dude, but I didn't kill him. You have to check my records to know for sure. I mean, I've used it a lot. A few months back, Emily Hansen said, what was it she said? Oh, yeah, she said, I have some pests that need taking care of. I brought it over there, but I think I spooked her some when I told her the care she needed to take around that deadly crap. Well, I was going to, but Carla has all these cats, you know, and she was worried about them getting into it. So I hauled it out of there.
I'm not really sure. He said he was planning to use this virulent pesticide, and I said, like hell you are. I didn't want my cats using up their 9 lives.
Did you happen to see where he kept it?
No, as I say, I can't be sure if it even was here. Are we talking an aerosol spray can like bug killer? Might have been in the kitchen, under the sink, or under the counter. Frankly, he cluttered our kitchen up something fierce. I was happy when he finally came and hauled that junk out. What a mess. Maybe. I really have no idea.
Wide tires. Looks like a 4x4. Tread isn't fresh. Not the best for matching. You'll want a different tool for that.
Truck? No, not anymore. I had a Chevy Blazer for some time, but sold it recently. Just 3 weeks ago.
No, I'm not the truck type. If it helps, I do know that Derek's mother owns one. An old Chevy, I think.
Already have, at the new owner's home. Hey, they can't all be hard. Even got a tread print for you. You're welcome.
Tread types are definitely similar, but the tread marks taken from the desert weren't fresh, so the wear marks can't be matched exactly.
Mother had pesticide in her garage, and she was there when Derek stopped by. We also have evidence linking her to the desert crime scene. I think we can get a judge to let us search that garage for anything that kills chemically.
Maybe so, but I haven't seen that vehicle in weeks. Do you really think I drove out into the middle of the desert to find and kill my own son? What kind of monster do you take me for? Well, if that isn't wonderful news.
Pesticide Safety, a consumer's handbook. Not your standard book of the month club material. Oh, somebody thoughtfully dog-eared a page for us. And here's our old friend, Compound 1080. You'll want a different tool for that. You'll want a different tool for that. Memos to her campaign manager. I hate paperwork. Looks like they talk about her son, though. This must be where Derek stowed his camping gear. Way to be thorough. Looks like the area's clean. I think we all have a hunch what this stuff is, but let's be sure. Derek's mom definitely had access to the pesticide in her garage, and she could easily have doctored his tobacco when he stopped by. Emily must have known all about the pesticide as a poison, but knowing doesn't necessarily mean doing. This tracks. We know Lou brought some of the rodenticide over to Emily's house.
Mama has a book on pesticides, as well as the killer powder in her house when her son stopped by. Let's hear her story.
So I left a harsh message for my wayward son, and that leads you to think I committed filicide?
You're a confident woman, Mrs. Hanson. Maybe you thought you'd never be found out, and the papers are already saying you're winning the sympathy of the voters.
Kill my own child to improve my position in the polls. Does that strike you as an effective way to attract votes? He had pledged financial support, and when he changed his mind, I had to let key staffers go and expose my financial weakness to the media. But since then, we've regained our footing and we'll do fine without his help. $100,000. If that sounds like a murder motive to you, tell me how I gain from my son's death. My sweet daughter-in-law, however, stands to pick up a cool $500,000. I saw a copy of the policy. We share an insurance agent. Why wouldn't I if I planned to have that vile substance around? My garage was rat-infested, and I meant to do something about it. Is killing rats a crime in Las Vegas?
No, unless the rat was a big one, named Derek, who had come around to pick up his camping gear. You knew he was coming over, so you manipulated your contractor friend Astor to bring you some pesticide. While Derek is distracted, you poison his tobacco, a dose perfect for seeing to it his desert camping expedition is his last.
Is that how you solve crimes, Captain Brass? Spin conjecture all day? I never touched that pesticide, nor even opened the book. I didn't have time. And I did not poison my son's tobacco, though I told that boy time and again that smoking would kill him someday. Now, if you're quite finished with wasting my time, perhaps I can provide a fact, not conjecture. There's something I found that I must have thrown away after Derek cleared out his camping gear. Look, I found a receipt that must have dropped out of Derek's jacket pocket.
You should have handed that over earlier, Mrs. Hanson. It may be evidence.
Well, I thought it was just trash at the time, but upon reflection, I began to think otherwise. It's a receipt for tobacco, the day before the crime. I called the tobacco shop, and you'll want to do the same.
We will, but why do you say that, Mrs. Hanson?
Well, as I say, the receipt had been in Derek's pocket, apparently, but the tobacco was purchased by Carla, the clerk said. And here's an interesting tidbit about my loving daughter-in-law. Smoking is not one of her numerous bad habits.
Yeah, I had a long talk with the clerk who knew Carla all the way from Catholic school. He also told me that Carla bought the tobacco the day before her husband left for the camp out. We know there was pesticide at the condo. We know Carla bought tobacco, and we know she's being friendly with others. Did Carla spike her husband's tobacco in his own house? You now have a search warrant for evidence to answer that question.
Derek's been gone for a week. How often do they do the laundry around here? You'll want a different tool for that. Unusual spot for a fingerprint. Looks like this lid fits the jar in the contractor's shop. Careful, something's on the inside. You'll want a different tool for that. Smells like tobacco. Derek wasn't responsible for this deposit of bodily fluid, so that sympathetic shoulder Carla was seeking was more than shoulder. They say tobacco kills. Sure does, especially with the pesticide blend. So, poison was mixed inside the lid at the condo. Derek and Carla were having their last breakfast together, and Lou, the friendly contractor, stopped by. Man, any one of them could have done it. You don't quite have a match there. Little details make all the difference when you're doing a comparison. When you're sure, then ask me for a confirmation.
Vic's wife bought tobacco. You found pesticide mixed in tobacco in her kitchen, which is a perfect recipe for bringing her in.
Well, it was a gift, of course. Smoking was the one vice Derek had that I hadn't tried to break him of, and making a gift of tobacco had a special meaning for us.
Special meaning. And you especially made sure you had to take it with him out in the desert.
I really have no idea what you're getting at. My husband liked to roll his own cigarettes. I gave him some tobacco as a gift.
Same unique blend that killed your husband.
Well, that is odd, I admit. And as I say, he rolled his own cigarettes. Wouldn't he have noticed if someone mixed something toxic in?
This was odorless, tasteless, and worth a shot, with $500,000 payday waiting for the loving wife.
Spare me your sarcasm, Captain. I already told you, that money means nothing to me. I earn my own considerable income as an attorney. Wasn't I the one who told you about the policy and warned you it would look suspicious? I didn't touch any jar, and I have no idea how pesticide might have gotten in my husband's tobacco. Why don't you ask that jackass Astor? It was his pesticide, wasn't it? Hell, it was his jar! Just like I said before, he got up and made us breakfast. You don't think he could have poisoned himself, do you? Well, he seemed happy. Then we were eating, and the contractor stopped by to get his junk out of our kitchen. We just left him alone. Neither of us wanted to talk to him. Wait, the contractor was in our kitchen. He could have poisoned him right behind our backs. God, I can't believe it.
You can't play the loyal wife who had just turned her wayward husband around when this tragedy happened. Not when the semen stains we found don't belong to your late husband.
I was going to end it. The affair, I mean. It started before Derek turned his life around, during a time when I felt very, very alone. And even when Derek and I started crawling back up out of the hole our marriage had become, my friend, as you put it, was there for me, supporting me. I'm not the only woman with 2 men in her life that she cares about. Do what you have to. Anything to help eliminate me so you can go after the real killer.
Prints on the jar lid tell the whole story.
You're wrong. I loved my husband. You're wasting time going down the wrong road. My theory is that ball-breaking mother of his is in on it with Astor.
Well, it wasn't Mom's prints on the jar lid. It was yours. And she didn't buy the tobacco. You did. Just like she didn't mix the poison.
You didn't find out at the last second about your husband's camping trip. You knew in advance, which is why you bought the tobacco the day before, giving you plenty of time to mix it with pesticide and send him off to the desert to die.
But you dropped the lid and couldn't get to it. So, to throw off suspicion, you called contractor Lou Astor and had him collect his materials and haul them away before your husband left.
You want a confession? You're not going to get one. I'm an attorney and I know my rights. And incidentally, I'm innocent. I didn't need the money, and I loved him despite his faults.
Maybe at one time, and whether you needed his money or not, what wife could sit there while her husband gambled away a trust fund? Here he is married to a beautiful woman like you, and he throws his money away on strippers.
But Mrs. Mitchell, Carla, why not just divorce the guy?
I'm not saying another word.
Didn't you know, Greg? Carla's a Catholic, and divorce is a sin. Anyway, a divorce settlement wouldn't have meant squat with that trust fund whittled away. But $500,000 in life insurance could make up for a lot of indignities.
I'll see you in court. You'll love it. I'll defend myself.
Perfect. And like the old saying goes, you'll have a fool for a client.
The tragedy of marriage, a wag once said, is that all women marry thinking their man will change, and all men marry believing their wives will never change. And both are wrong. For Carla Mitchell, marriage was built on trust. A trust fund that is. When she saw it melt away, she sought a new policy, life insurance. Her poison of choice was tasteless and odorless, but not invisible, to the eyes of science at least. You did well. Let's evaluate your performance. You investigated every possible angle on this case. Doesn't happen often, but I'm very impressed.